please.
Councillor Larishell.
Here.
Councillor Moore.
Here.
Councillor Lunt.
Here.
Councillor Fellows.
Here.
Councillor Robichaud.
Here.
Councillor Miller.
Here.
Councillor Smith.
And Councilor Smith is called and would be absent, so I'd entertain a motion to accept his
I make that
absence.
motion. I'll second that.
All in favor?
7-0, order passed.
Thank you. Next item, please.
6-0.
Good news and recognition.
Diane, if you could. Please come on. We can do it up here. He's not here tonight, so. And so we can do it in front of the camera here. It's very, this is from the council and for the community. It's actually a certificate of appreciation for all your time serving the town since 2014. A long time. It's gone by fast. Yeah. We appreciate everything you've done, and just wish you the best on your new endeavor, and hope everything goes good. But you're still a resident of Lisbon, right?
Exactly.
You're still here.
Still be here.
So give that to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think Chief wants to take a picture. And also, this is actually a small token of appreciation from the council. Hopefully you can use it, and every time you look at it, or use the dartboard if you're looking at it. Yeah. Thank you very much. We appreciate everything you've done. Thank you.
Gee, that means you can run for council now, huh?
Except for I have council meetings the same nights as you have them here.
Yeah. Okay.
But I want to thank you, the council, for the opportunity to serve the taxpayers of Lisbon. It's been a wonderful ride for the last 7.5 years. We've accomplished much together, and I think, Lisbon's moving forward in the right direction, and I'm glad that I was able to be a part of the change. And I just hope it keeps going forward, and I'm going to miss everybody. It's a double-edged sword, and, we make relationships when you work with coworkers and with the community. So the one good thing is I'm still going to be here in the community. I'm just not going to be working in it. So, but thank you all.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Public hearings. Once the chair opens a public hearing, those present who wish to speak approach the lectern to address the council chair. Please use a microphone and state your name for the record. Medical marijuana manufacturing and medical marijuana retail store licenses for Crystal Springs.
I'd like to open up that public hearing. Is there anybody here that represents company that wants to actually make a statement? Don't have to, but if you wish, you can come up and actually just give a brief overview of.
I would say we're just happy to be in Lisbon. We're just close to opening, so we're just hoping that everything's going to work out.
And could just for the record, just state your name.
Michael Scalia. My partner is Samuel, my son, and my good friend Gary Karen.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here that wants to speak at that public hearing for this topic? See no movement. We'll close that public hearing. Next one, please.
The next public hearing, special entertainment permit and victualer's license for Olive Pit Brewing Company.
I'll open that public hearing. Is there anybody here this evening who would like to speak on this topic? See no movement. We'll close that public hearing. Next item, please.
Audience participation and response for agenda items. At this time, those in the audience who wish to speak may approach the lectern to address items or issues that are on the agenda. Please use a microphone and state your name for the record.
And we'll open that time frame now. If anybody wants to speak on an item that is on the agenda tonight, feel free to come forward.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm haunting you. Lisa Ward, Lisbon Development Committee. I'm using the opportunity because it's on the list for review later on. I finished the draft outline with the results of the meeting that we had last week, and I wanted to be able to give it to council before it went public. I did run it by Chairman Larishell a little earlier today. Wasn't a ton of extra time, but I think it would be good for the council to have the opportunity to look over the results of that. We'll also be posting it online, and we'll continue to accept input from the community and the council and anyone interested, businesses and residents alike. So I'm going to just pass them out. I'm really excited to give them to you guys.
And Lisa, if there is some input that someone wants to actually make or a recommendation, what's the best source? Is it your town website?
My town email would be perfect. Yes.
And is that somewhere on this, or is it something they can look it up on the development committee?
It's right on the development committee.
you.
And one for
Oh, yes.
Yes, it's easy to remember. It's lward@lisbonme.org. It is, I'll add it to this. I didn't think of that.
That's no problem. No.
And I really urge folks to get involved in the process if they haven't already, or to follow up if they have and they have any additional questions. I'm not going to review this. It's long for a reason. And I put each option that we did on a separate page, so if you have questions and stuff like that, you can just jot them down. I'm available for questions. So is Brett Richardson in the development office, and we really have we did a lot of talking, and it was good. I felt like it was a really good meeting. We came up with 4 options, one of which includes a riverside park. And we took what we were hearing ahead of time and put it into the drafts, and then fleshed it out at the meeting. So these are written descriptions. After the council votes in February, at the February meeting, we'll go ahead and have those actual drawings done. But that way we'll get as much input from both council and the public as we can. So.
Thank you. And just referring back to the meeting, is that was taped on live stream?
It's
right?
on live streams, and you can still watch it. It's still there. And I think we still have the link on warumbo.org. I'll check with Brett. I think it's still there.
For anybody who wants to go back and look.
It was broken the first day, I think. I noticed that it wasn't working right, but I think it's fixed. So people should be able to watch it. Warning, it's a long meeting. It's 2 hours. But you can fast forward on that. So.
Thank you.
Well attended?
All right.
Was it well attended?
Well, the meeting wasn't a public meeting. That's coming soon. The meeting was the development committee, along with invited representatives of other interests, including the planning board, the Save the View, and the council. So, and during the meeting, I did accept emails before and during the meeting, so that if public during the live streams wanted to have some input at that time. But again, I'm still accepting input. It's still a draft, and we still want to make sure that we get everything that we need to in there. And I think it's a really great opportunity. It was a great conversation. We had a lot of input from Save the View folks that was very positive and forward-moving, and I think that we were able to I'm glad that we were able to put that as one of the options on here. So I'm excited to hear further input, and just appreciate the chance to give this to you today.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
can I ask a question?
You may.
Next council meeting, I believe, is the intended time to present this.
It is.
And at that time, the process will be reiterated that it was intended, whether it ends up that way or not, but
Right.
what was originally.
And, it sounds a little repetitive, but the reason we reiterate the process each time we do something is because it is a process. It's not in stone. It doesn't have rules. But as a process, we want to make sure that if there's something that we need to change in how we're doing things along the way, that we remain open to being able to do that. But I feel like we've been able to move forward strongly, and that we've taken the input along the way and used it in a positive way. I'm really excited about it, and I think the other members of the committee are too. We've really worked hard to put on paper what people are telling us they want. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Council all set? Anybody else for anything about tonight's agenda? Does anybody like to bring up or make a comment of? Seeing nobody. Next item, please.
Consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered routine and will be considered for adoption by one motion with no separate discussion unless the council requests an item be removed. Any councilor wishing to remove an item may do so now. Seeing none, Order 2022-14 to approve the municipal accounts payable warrants for $306,461.81. School accounts payable warrants for $268,007.27. School payroll warrants for $740,520.33. Minutes of January 4th, 2022. Renewal medical marijuana manufacturing and retail store license for Crystal Springs and special entertainment permit and victualler's license for Olive Pit Brewing Company. Set a public hearing on February 1st for a medical marijuana retail store license for BBB Pharmaceutical Alternatives, LLC, and an adult use products manufacturing facility for Cannabis Angels. An audit engagement letter authorizing the town manager to sign the R.H.R. Smith audit engagement letter, and tax collector settlement authorization to approve and sign the certificate of settlement for Diane Barnes, tax collector, for the fiscal year 19, 20, 21, and 22.
Entertain a motion.
Make that motion.
Second that.
We have first and second. All in favor?
6-0, order passed.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Council orders, resolutions, and ordinances. Order 2022-15, review council rules, suggested amendments.
And I'll have Mr. Fellows actually give an update. He had a recommendation to modification of the rules. It's just bringing in a policy that the town's already adopted. I'll let you kind of take it from there, Don.
You pretty much said it. The working rules that the council have were changed a couple of years ago to be more reflective of what's really happening or what's should be happening. And we just adopted the remote meeting policy last year as a council for emergency situations, and all I did with it here was just include it as part of the working rules so that it would be consistent with the working rules. That was it. And I think you've all seen it. I emailed it a long time ago.
Thank you, Don. Does any other council have any input on the working rules, or they're pretty much decent as they were? This is just a nice addition, kind of cleans it up in a sense. So, entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Order 2022-16, Lisbon COVID-19 vaccination, testing, and face covering policy.
So, interesting discussion. This has actually been moved from the last meeting. There's been, what I'm going to do is probably in just a moment, just actually open some discussion from council, because we thought we'd come back to this meeting and actually have more information to actually make a good, honest decision. But I think there's more questions now than there was last time, maybe. So I know a few of the councils had different opinions or discussions, so I'll open it up for a discussion at this point in time.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
In reference to the Supreme Court action and the fact that the state OSHA group, Bosch, I think it's called, has not met yet and still hasn't said they are, even though there's the possibility that state operation could require this, I think our proper action would be to table this for a future date, either to take it off the agenda or to act on it. And so to take it off and do away with it totally wouldn't quite be appropriate. So I move that we table it till next meeting and see what that happens.
Any other discussion from council?
Take it off. I vote to take it off.
Need a second for the motion or not?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's my opinion for now. So.
Yeah. The any other discussion before we go? Because once we actually make a motion, it's for.
I did make a motion.
You made a motion initially. All right.
You're waiting for a second, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll second to table it.
All right. Any other discussion on that? Ready for a vote? All those in favor of voting? I mean, on tabling it to the next meeting?
4-0.
All those opposed?
4-2.
So I guess we'll bring this up at the next meeting, and we'll keep rolling with this until we can finally figure it out.
It'll probably come off.
Yeah, I would assume, yep. Yep. But we'll keep it moving forward. Next item, please.
Order 2022-17 budget schedule.
That budget schedule is similar to what we did last year, adopted, and if you approve it tonight as presented, then we'll go and add the budget committee to the workshops, because they met at the same time as the council last year to hear the budget.
And and the schedule actually meets all the criteria for timelines
Yes.
and dates and hearings, and so it's something that can be modified slightly, but not very much, because there's actually certain guidelines we have to fit through the budget. So, entertain a motion to accept the budget schedule.
I make a motion to accept.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
It should be a good time. So hopefully we'll be able to get right into it and make it work well. Next item, please.
Order 2022-18 generator bids.
So the bids were opened, and they were all way over bid. So our recommendation right now is to reject the bids, but if you don't want to do that, then you'll need to go through a process to appropriate more money through unassigned fund balance to get it done, and that's a process you'll have to go through.
Sir?
Yeah, a couple things on, the PW had put aside, or we had asked for $40,000, because that was the preliminary talk that we had with ESM, and thinking what we needed for materials. The cost of goods and everything going up, and they upped my generator from a 40 to an 80 kilowatt, and doing a 400 amp service instead of a 200 amp service because of the size of the building, and that would be including my mechanics bay, which right now is not hooked up to the generator when it runs. So, if we can't come up with the extra money, I would say that we put aside this 40,000 that's allotted. And in my CIP, I'll ask for another 16 to make up the difference and get it in the following year. I just don't know where the price of goods are going to go from here. So this bid will be good for a while, but we can't hold them to it forever. You know what I mean? And as far as the fire department, chief's going to go down a different route as far as getting grants and whatever.
Any questions from council? I have a couple, but I'll entertain anybody from...
I mean, if it's two generators, would it make sense to buy one and consolidate from the fire department and the public works to get something done this year and then do something for next year, rather than do nothing because prices are rising? So I don't think it'll be cheaper next year.
That's up to council to decide, how they want to divvy that up.
Any other discussion from council?
Randy, I know that there was a discussion that there was a quote of 38 to 40 verbally. Was that just like a ballpark thing?
Well, when I was initially going out for budgetary reasons, and just for quotes, to see what I could throw into my CIP, to carry forward. I had Matt Tazaneri from ESM come down. He looked it all over, and it said, between, $38,000 and $40,000. So I went with the higher route. I went with 40,000. Then under further, investigating and looking at what we actually need, he had to up the size of the generator, which was a substantial amount of money, and that's where the big difference is, like 15 grand. As far as the changing from a 200 amp to 400 amp, that was a really big deal. It was he kind of figured that anyway. And then there was just a little bit more extra to hook up my mechanics bay, which was never hooked up when that building was built. It was never hooked up to the generator power, so I have no way to operate my doors or my welders or anything. So there's a lot more workload for that generator. That's why it went up in price.
Mr. Chair,
You may, sir.
I just have one question.
Sure.
Where the heck's the money coming from?
Well, the money, we actually, in last year's budget,
Yep.
we actually appropriated money for two generators.
For 40,000.
For 40,000. So right now, that's the reason the recommendation is to not go forward with either one of them, is because
Right.
we didn't have money available.
Right.
Mark actually made an interesting point. The idea of actually we had the combined money would almost make one generator. The question is, you know, I think we have to come up with the idea of the need. And you want to finish with that, Don, or is there another thought?
Well, I don't want to confuse it with the fire department, and I know the fire department has a different idea. Maybe we ought to hear both before we go any further with it.
I have a couple questions. Sir, do you have anything for him on the generator at all? Or?
But if you have both on one and you lose that one generator, you have no redundancy, right?
Well, I think it was more the idea of taking the pool of money, the two different allocations, and combine them together to buy one generator instead of doing two facilities, right? Instead of doing fire department and the public works, take the money that was allotted in last year's budget, combine them, and actually get one of the projects done. Because I think Chief is actually in his memo said he was possibly looking for grant funds, possibly. So the question is do we do nothing at all, or do we actually compile the money that we actually appropriated to actually fulfill one? I mean, a couple questions before we get into the grant. So what's the size of the one that we actually have right now, Randy? It's not a huge generator. It's just a small one.
No,
Basically kept lights and heat going pretty much is what it was.
It's a 1968 Ford diesel motor that runs, you know, but it's only got a 5-gallon tank I got to keep filling up.
Yep.
So it's very outdated. And I don't know if that one's even a 40. I might be a 40 kW.
And the size that we put into the town office, was that was a 120 or 100? That was a fairly large generator, right?
Yeah.
And that cost was actually really not much different than what they're quoting here, right? That was right around the 65,000. So, you know, evidently things have actually really increased in price, which looking around the world, that's not unheard of right now. The building next door, the solid waste, does that have any backup at all right now?
No.
And the heat's all blown. There's no water
No.
served. There's not a boiler or anything in that facility or anything
There's
like
a
that.
boiler in there, but it's run off of two separate transformers. That one has its own transformer, and PW has its own transformer. And the generator would not run the transfer station. It's only for the PW garage only.
Okay. I was just wondering about our needs down there. That's all. Once we start getting to that size of generator, what it would work. We'll get Chief on board in just a second. But the question would be to me, I actually see Public Works as one of the buildings that need to be up and running, probably in the worst of our storms and stuff if we ever would have a problem. I mean, the prices definitely were drastic. I mean, it was one of those things where it was just a major increase from what we're seeing, but I think if we do anything right now, it's going to show those same increases. Chief, why don't you come up and give us your idea what you think, and if you think you're going to need to actually use any of those funds that you thought you had.
Listening to the age of Randy's generator, I think he's probably almost in worse shape than we are. My big thing is that there is a possibility of the federal FEMA grant for generator projects, which was closed back at the beginning of December, but talks are going to reopen it because not a lot of interest was applied for it. And when that reopens, that's a way for us to put in, at least try to get the fire stations taken care of. Again, with a grant, there's never any 100% guarantee because they're taking the top three candidates to fund these projects. But there's a way to try to go for that to help offset this. Part of the Lisbon Falls project was to upgrade electrical service. That building's currently on a 100 amp service. It needs to be a 200 amp service. Counsel Rochelle, I mean, that fuse panel in that station's original from when your father was there.
No, it's old.
It's original to the building, and I can't get the fuses for that fuse panel from Gilman Electric anymore. I have to order the stuff off of Amazon to get the fuses for that. So that was part of this project, and that's one part of this project that I really like to fund this year to get that taken care of. If I can only do one piece of all of this, that's the one piece I have to get done. We've already blown this. I have an electrical piece in my office right now where we blew a part out of that because it was not powered right. So we have a service issue. And Matt from ESM was surprised we haven't burnt up some motors in that station already because of it's underpowered.
Any questions from council? I have a few, but I'd entertain any questions as far as so 2 different stations, 2 different projects. Were they both generators and wiring, or one was actually just a generator, one is wiring?
One was just a generator. The other was both the generator and the wiring.
So if you were to, I'm not going to hold you to definite dollars right now, so the generator, were they equal costs for each, and then
Yeah,
the
because
wiring was?
they were the same generator
Okay.
for both stations. Because like right now, both stations are being powered by 15 kW generators, and according to the experts, we should be at a 48 to 50 minimum for those buildings for what we're running in them. So the generators are really we can't run our exhaust system and the garage door at the same time on the generator. Things brown out.
So the question would be, is if you were to allocate the money for the wiring upgrade, what would that be left over? Do you have a rough idea? I mean, we should know that, but I mean, as far as generators, what would be actually left over if you did not replace the generators? Roughly.
Just by going with
what was budgeted, I guess I would say.
just by going with a rough number that was quoted a year ago, it was 17 a year ago to do just the electrical. And I'm not sure with the cost of everything going up. I don't know. I'm not sure what that would be today. We'd have to go out to a whole new RFP. It wasn't broken down enough in the RFP now to give that determination of the current RFPs we have.
Yep. Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to think maybe if you and Randy could get together and see, what you can crunch the numbers together, if there's a way to do public works generator, and I don't know if you could fit one of the two at the fire station, do the when you need most in the electrical, if that, leave the third generator for, next year, if you could fit something under the total budget for the two, so we're not allocating additional money that wasn't budgeted, but, rather than just do none of the projects at all and kick it till next year.
So Mark's saying live within your means, so what we have, just try to figure out what we can do.
If I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head and what those numbers were, I think that between what Randy had allocated, what I had allocated, plus the electrical upgrade allocation, I don't think would be too far off to be able to complete the public works plus the electrical upgrade. May not be able to do one of the generators, but at least get the electrical upgrade done and shoot for the generators either next year or try to get those grants.
Could we actually, because we were looking to table this anyways, but can we actually just possibly bring this up at the next meeting and maybe do a little homework in between? Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you may have to get a separate quote for the electrical.
Yeah.
And then that may...
The way the RFP was originally worded, it doesn't separate enough for us to give you an accurate number of what's going to cost to do that work. So I recommend go back out to RFP for the electrical work.
Randy, one more question. The tanks at the public works run off the generator at this point, so if the fuel up the trucks during a storm, we actually need power.
That's correct.
So I mean, I don't see this as not being a necessary. I mean, they were quite surprised when they actually looked at the generator last time that it was actually functioning. So I don't think it's a question whether we need it. It's just the idea if we can actually use the funds that we have to make it work. So
right. I think if you have no power during a major storm, you can't plow the roads, you can't fuel the trucks. It's pretty bad.
Yep.
I would think that we probably ought to go back and see what we can get for what we have budgeted.
Correct.
But the other question I would have is, I don't know if it fits. Is there a possibility of any TIF money in any area of this? Diane, do you?
That's where I think we're taking his portion out of is the TIF.
It was already from the TIF.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the public safety, not for
okay.
his.
Okay.
Let's see what we can do, and we'll kind of go from that route. And I do agree that if your fuse box is that bad, the rest of the wiring can't be much better. So I mean, it definitely needs to be addressed before you were to hook up a new generator for sure. So. Thank you.
How are we fueling the generators?
Right now, I fuel it with a 5-gallon bucket.
Would be natural.
Diesel?
Diesel.
Are we getting the new one's going to be diesel?
Yeah. No, my new one's going to be natural gas.
Natural gas.
Yeah, because my natural gas manifold is right where the generator is. Mine's natural gas.
Okay. How about the fire departments?
The proposal was for diesel, mainly because we don't have natural gas going up Villa Street or Main Street, and the property isn't large enough to put a large enough propane tank on the property and meet the setbacks. So the only option was to do diesel.
So do we have underground tanks there?
No, it would be a contained unit, so it would be above the tank is actually below the generator. So imagine a tank. You look at the generator outside. Imagine a tank under that, so it sits a little higher. It would be the same diameter as the generator.
Do you need a motion?
I'm not sure, we actually didn't really bring it forward to a sense, so I mean, if, should we actually?
If you want to consider it next time, maybe
Yeah.
we should move to do that. But
Okay, would you like to offer that motion?
I would offer that motion to move it to next meeting to
Get more
readdress.
information? Second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor of bringing it to the next meeting with more information?
Order passed, 6-0.
We'll get those numbers for you. Thank
Perfect,
you.
that's awesome, thank you. Next item, please.
Other business, council, committee reports.
I think tonight what we'll do is we'll go through and actually just try to put a name to each one of these. And some of these, there's a lot, how would I say, there's a broader committee base in the town. So there's a lot of other committees. These 9 right here are the ones that we typically speak of at each meeting. So I'd like to go through these. The other committees actually, and any counselor can feel free to go to any committee meeting at any point in time, as long as there's not more than 2 of us there. So we may want to just kind of communicate a little bit if we were about to do that. Again, it's always good to stay up on it. So why don't we go through these, and I'll take any
Mr. Chair,
recommendations.
at some point, I have a report on what's been done so far.
Sure, why don't we go through this and we can do a report. How's that? Is that fair enough?
Yep.
The school committee, does anybody have an interest in actually visiting the school committees? Tracy's out there. She won't be offended if anybody doesn't raise their hands. I would actually take that one on if no one else. Planning board, Dawn has actually been in the past. Dawn, is that something you're willing to
Yes.
actually continue on?
Yes.
Lisbon Development Committee?
I'm on it. I'd like to stay on it. I don't have to be the liaison.
Yep. I think Councilor Smith actually made a comment that may be something he's interested in also, so I will put him on that. Conservation Committee?
I'll do that. Nobody will.
Okay, that's great. Parks and Recreation.
I don't mind doing that with Mark.
Perfect. Thank you. County Budget, Harry, you actually sounded interested in
Yeah.
that. So are you willing to serve this year? Actually, not just be a representative, but actually serve to represent Lisbon on the
Sure.
county? And Mark, is that something you're going to continue doing?
I'm willing to do that.
Okay, and Harry, we'll put Harry down as actually
Absolutely.
coming back
We
and
need 2 of us, so that's great.
coming back to the thing. That's great. Thank you. And Library, Mark, you've actually kind of held that post. You
Yep.
still willing to do that again?
Continue that.
And Water Commission, I know they've been encouraging to try to get Don to stay on. Okay, thank you.
Is that a yes, Dawn?
He's nodding yes, so we're going to take it as a yes, and hopefully. No. And then the Finance Committee.
I'll try that one.
You going to do that one? Perfect.
That's intense for a short period.
So you'll play double duty. So when we go through the budget season, you'll be able to sit through both of them and actually have a good report. And with that being said, Don, would you like to respond back?
The planning board met last week, and they did a site plan review for Grandview Estates subdivision. Not subdivision, but Grandview Estates up on Grandview. And there were 2 cannabis operations, one for manufacturing and one for retail, both in the downtown Lisbon area. As far as the Water Commission goes, the only thing that really struck to me was there's still one of the concerns in town is corrosion in the water system and what the damage it all does. But they're still waiting for parts to start that corrosion anti-control system, which they keep hoping will happen soon. And the LDC, that one had already met, and Lisa talked about it. So.
She did, yes. You all set, sir?
Can we ask any questions about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. How do we have a manufacturing on the planning board when it's not zoned for that downtown?
That's a good question. You'll have to ask the planning board.
Okay. Because it's coming up again, too, for us shortly, so I'm just curious how we're going to approach that or how that's being approached.
Right. I understand. There's probably more that can be gotten from the planning board. I have to address it with them or the board.
Just a question.
When you ask about manufacturer, does that mean the extraction process?
Manufacturing cannabis for the state of Maine is very broad. Manufacturing can be hydrocarbon, it could be water-based, it could be simply just packaging, it could be collecting other people's cannabis and just housing it in a spot where you pull from and package yourselves. So manufacturing doesn't mean just making a concentrate or pen or whatever. It's buying or bringing your product, and
Kind of anything that has to do with it?
anything outside of the cultivation or selling it usually has to fall within the manufacturing guidelines. So the state's rule or the state's approach to it is that anything packaging, kitchens, any of that is all under the manufacturing umbrella. So there probably could be or should be 2 or 3 different types of that, but from a state perspective, it's a no. It's one thing. And Lisbon
Discussion the other night, don't count me for sure, but I believe it did excluded extraction from the operation. Specifically excluded it.
manufacturing excluded extraction.
Yes.
That's impossible because there's not an extraction license. There's a manufacturing license.
Well, you can discuss that at another point, but that's what happened.
No, I'm sure I have a good understanding of how it was brought up, but I live and breathe that world.
So there's a
every
question
day.
of zoning?
It's not zoned. Right now, there's a kitchen being operated in Village Zone, and how it got approved to operate in Village Zone, I don't know. But it's not a hydrocarbon. It's not an explosive type of manufacturing, but there's a manufacturing company being run in the Village Zone.
Well, using a kitchen?
Using a kitchen, yeah.
And this item will be coming back up for a discussion at the next meeting also, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we can actually have, in the meantime, if there's some questions, we can actually forward them to the planning board, and maybe we can get some written.
Just because if it's got to fit all. You can't, especially where this is. I mean, if you want to allow manufacturing in the village, that we can absolutely do that. But then you can't differentiate. Yes, you can do this here, but you can't do that, because then you will have a lawsuit of someone saying, well, you allow manufacturing here. Why can't I open a hydrocarbon lab to create all of this? I mean,
Because it technically is all manufacturing.
it's all manufacturing. So it's a one-size-fits-all, currently.
I know one of the things that the planning board does have in their toolbox is the idea, since all this actually has to be looked at and possibly done with certain protocols, they can look at it. It's all conditional use, so they can actually put different conditions.
I can tell you that the whole matter is under consideration with the planning board for future discussion at the next meeting or two.
Yeah, I imagine it would be.
Well, good. Hopefully we can get
It's
some
hard.
clarity.
It's hard to wrap my head around it, because back in the day,
It was all wrong.
if I'd have found a joint in your ashtray or a roach, you were going to jail. I mean, that was the way it was back then. I mean,
Right.
it's all legal now, and
Technically, if it's still in your ashtray,
I'm
they
dealing
can
with
go
that,
to jail.
but it's not easy.
That'd be a
Unless
DUI.
the
If it was still in your
ashtray's
ashtray, you're still in trouble.
Yeah.
But again, you all know I live and breathe this world more than anybody in this room or state, really. And it is the weirdest, most difficult one to. I mean, cultivation is growing, selling and retail is manufacturing. You could just be packaging your own product, and that's manufacturing.
Now, is the state working on trying to
No.
settle that?
Nope.
They're not?
Nope. Not one bit.
It's
As
easier
long
for
as they
them
get
to
their
keep it
tax money,
going.
they don't care. I mean,
Nope.
it's up to the towns and everybody to deal
Goes
with.
right back to the town. Yeah.
Good information. The any other questions on
No, I was
that?
just anxious to see how that turned out.
And is there any other committee reports or that anybody has to offer? I think at this point in time, it's the only ones that were there. So we will be doing these at every meeting. So if you have an opportunity, and if you're not able to attend the meeting, if you could just reach out, maybe just talk to someone that actually represents the committee or the chair of that committee to actually just get an update, that's great. As we go through, one of the things that we've done in the past, and which we're hoping to do, is coming up in the budget seasons, we usually actually have the committees come in front of the council and actually give the kind of their goals for the year, because their goals should represent what our goals are also, and whether or not, how we support them. So it is really important that we do actually have people that represent these committees on the council, so we can make sure they keep moving forward. There's nothing worse than serving on a committee that's just a dead end that doesn't happen. I mean, that you keep meeting and nothing that you actually try to move forward with happens, and that's how committees really get burnt out. And and kind of fade away. So the more support we can give them, the better. Next item, please.
Town Manager's Report.
So I'll send another email out tomorrow about the FEMA training. And then, just as an FYI, the clerk's ad closes this Friday.
Any,
Got responses yet?
Not many.
not many?
Do we advertise it more broadly?
We do it the way we do everything. It's just the world we're living in right now.
Yep, it is a crazy world.
And if they go on our website and look at our budget and look at what that salary is, you're not going to get many people to apply. So
What was it?
I think it was 60-something.
The, you all set?
Yeah.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Department Head Written Reports.
Everybody take a look at them. They come out in our agenda packets. If you go through it, you'll see what the departments are doing. And a couple things have been added in there. If you look through, not only they say what happened in the last month or so, but they usually try to put the goals, what they're moving forward to. So if you actually see, read and see if you have any questions, feel free at the council meetings to, just bring up a question that you have, or if something you think needs to add or subtracted, or, and again, there's a lot of good input. I mean, it's a very active town. If you look at the number of calls emergency personnel goes out to, especially lately, it's pretty wild. There's actually some pretty neat reports, and we're not a very sleepy little town anymore. We're actually pretty active. So it's put there to give you an opportunity to see what the department heads are doing. And again, it's there for a reason, so hopefully read up on them, and if there's any questions, bring it forward so we can make sure we get those addressed. Next item, please.
Council goal setting.
So typically when we get into the new season, what we do is we actually have councilors, we'll spend a night and we'll actually talk about our goals. We're not going to do that tonight, so I'm going to give you a little time to think about it. It may not be in our first February meeting, but probably the second one, especially prior to budget season for sure. So as councilors, I mean, we're all here for a reason. We all got our expertise, but it's always nice to have, getting an idea of what the council or what the goals are for the year, and whether it's a budget goal or operational goal. It's really important that we set some goals and we try to stand by them. So at the end of the year, as we talked about those committees, it's nice to feel that we accomplished, right? And the only way we can do that is really set some goals. I mean, Diane's actually led us in a direction of one of the goals need to be to fulfill a new town manager, right? So we have some immediate goals that we're going to need to work on. So I mean, but again, we all may have individual items that we may feel pretty dear to. So is that fair to think? Probably not our next meeting, but the second February meeting. Does that seem fair enough that we'll actually bring it on the agenda?
We'll all need reminders, I'm sure.
We will. Yep. But it's good. It's good just to, again, along with the committee goals, if our council goals really need to be something that we're here for, and we all have reasons to be here, right? So we want to make sure that we moving forward with those. Next item, please.
Order 2022-19 Lisbon Development Committee 3-year renewal appointments that expire January 31st for Don Fellows, council member and liaison, primary and secondary liaison, Angela Demores, regular member, Lisa Ward, regular member, and Christopher Rugeles, associate member. I hope I pronounced that right. Yeah, okay, good.
Actually, all good members. I can speak for all of them. They actually all participate. Lisa Girl, I'm not sure if she's still here, but she does a lot of work for sure. Angela and Chris Regulis, they're very active. So, and that Don guy, I've heard his name a couple times before. So, I'd entertain a motion to actually approve their renewal appointments.
Make that motion. Second it.
All those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Perfect. Next item, please.
Order 2022-20 Conservation Committee appointment for Sherry Garnett.
Sherry's been very active for years and years. She actually probably knows the ins and outs of Beaver Park probably as better as anybody since she's actually lived there. So, I mean, she is very fitting for this appointment. And
Make that motion.
I appreciate that. Second?
I'd second that.
Perfect. All those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Very glad to see that she's still willing to participate and be active. That's really great. Yeah, she's definitely done her time. Next item, please.
Order 2022-21 Council Committee assignments.
We just did that.
Yeah, we just kind of did that. I skipped ahead. I apologize for that. We actually got that, and I will actually.
The council up here.
I actually went through the assignments. Since some of them weren't fulfilled, I figured it was just easier to do it at that particular time. So,
Okay.
we good?
Yep.
Everybody all set?
I just want to go on record of, I'd like to add myself to the Public Safety Committee.
That's one of the things I think is going to be.
Kind of that meets as needed.
Well, I think as I mentioned, there's a list of committees, and maybe that'd be one of our goals is to actually kind of pinpoint what committees are active. Because I had reached out to Chief to ask him how often they met when you actually said you wanted to be part of it. And I know years past, Chief Brooks actually had a group that he pulled in when needed. But I don't think that's really been an active group. Maybe do you want to speak on it now, or you just think it's something we're to bring up in the future?
That was a Conrad Davis thing.
It was,
That was
yes.
part
Yeah.
of the Lisbon Community Policing Group, LCS group.
It was all kind of a big group. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, I actually think it's a good idea. The more input we can have in public safety from the community, especially those with experience in the community, I think would be good. And the more we can communicate, the better off it can be. Safety School Committee as well. We meet, often for safety committee meetings. So it'd be good to have some type of public safety committee meeting. Could be busy the next few months, but my door is always open to discuss it further. And but I think it's a good idea because the more we can communicate issues that are coming up, the more the public's going to be aware of the issues that are going on. Like you made a good point earlier. I know when I write my monthly reports to the council, I try to do a good job making sure I'm relaying what's going on. And but there's sometimes you can put that in a public forum where you could speak at a committee and talk about some issues going on at hand or get some other ideas. I know I do it with inside the police department, and I also do it with some business members as well. But I think it would be a good idea to be able to broaden that and use it more often.
So I think it's something we need to look at and actually see if we want to make it more of a monthly type of committee, whether it's monthly, quarterly, and I think it's just something that needs to be looked at. When that list that came out to come out of committee offerings, there was just a lot of that list that I had never really seen being active. So I think we probably just need to look at that bigger list and see which ones do need to be looked at more. And these always were the ones that actually, these 9 that came up to the top of the list that we needed to look at. And it's probably because they were more active. But that doesn't mean that we can't make some of the other ones active to, they all had a meaning at one point in time, right? So
correct. And public safety is not just police; it's all of us, fire and EMS and anything public safety related. So it could be good to. I know that myself, I've already reached out to the fire chief and the EMS chief and also EMA to start having meetings to discuss bigger topics as far as mass casualty incidents and whatnot. So that could be something where we could incorporate some other people as well in planning and.
I would do some drill down with some of the public safety people and see if we can't put something together, and I'll give a report to the council and
Perfect.
see whether it's something that we can get a little more active.
Yep. When you do the training, and I may, if I can, attend also, because that training that night basically goes over the idea of the need for communities to have very active committee meetings,
Right.
pulling all their public safety together, doing drills, and they basically say those are the people, the towns that have that type of format are the ones that get the more grants because they're promoting the idea that they're well rehearsed in what they can use it for and the need. The last time I was there, I had a million questions. They were talking about, active drills and, what ifs, and we have a lot of activities in town. And one of the ones I talked a couple of years ago is whatever happened if someone drove through the crowd of a Moxie parade. And then recently seeing that one on TV,
Right.
it was like, oh my God, where do you pull 20 ambulances from? And who even coordinates that? And at that meeting, we were talking who does take the lead in an event like that. This happens in town. Is the police department, fire department, or is it, and there was a lot of mixed views in that room because there was a lot of different communities, and every community has a stronger person saying, well, in my community, I would take the lead, and the other person said, well, really, why would you take the lead on that? So those things that really need to be determined ahead of time, and with that being said, the equipment that you would need to make that happen other things that you can actually justify in a grant and come to the top of the list if you can justify these needs. So,
And it's a great thing, to your point, the NIMS training that you just mentioned, that's the sole source of it. And then on top of that, being in contact and partnering all the time with our local EMA, I have literally a full spreadsheet of all the equipment at my disposal, not just for the town of Lisbon, but the entire county of EMA, from command vehicles to you name it. So if something major happens here, and I know a year ago when we started talking about, heaven forbid, the dam in Lewiston ever broke, now we have plans in place, and we've expanded from that. And as I said, we're actually looking at having a training this summer at one of the schools to plan for that event. We hope never ever happens in this community, to be more prepared, and that's why I've included EMA as well as the fire chief, EMS chief on that, so we can actually start doing some tabletop exercises, not just at the schools, but also some of the larger businesses down. We also have big businesses like Dingley Press, large businesses with a lot of people that work there. So just trying to have some more plans in place. We have plans in place, but have more plans in place, I should say, as far as including everybody in that NIMS.
Finding the missing holes too, and financially, that's where this whole training comes into place, is the idea of trying to find out where the financials come from to actually make those work. So
yeah, we setting goals to improve. That's important.
The last tabletop that Lisbon had, was that LCS?
That was the last hands-on. We've had table talks where we discussed stuff, but the Lisbon Community School was the last hands-on
one.
Yep, where we had all the different.
When was that?
I'd say that was probably 10 years ago.
I was going to say 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I think we need more of those.
if you're willing to do that, we'll be more than happy to listen. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm game to do it as well. Thank you. Thank you.
The any other items on committee assignments? Seems so. As things come up, I mean, this is going to be open, so I mean, we can at any meeting, if there's a concern or another idea or or something needs to be changed, just doesn't get set in stone tonight and stays that way. So I do encourage any of the councilors to attend different committees just to see what the format is and see who. There's a lot of active people that have been active for a long time that really deserve our support. So next item, please.
Council Communications.
Anything from council at all for communications?
I would like to recognize Public Works. They're already gone. They did a good job at the storms. I think they stayed right on top of it. Did a good job.
It was not an easy storm by all means.
No, it was tough because of the snow and rain and cold, and it was a mess.
Yeah, we had.
Yeah.
Any other items for communications? I actually have one. I was actually asked from Mark Stephens of the Recreation Committee. So last summer they used the Rumbo site for the car shows, and it's coming up on the time where if he's going to actually advertise for that again in this upcoming year, that he needs to let the cruise nights and everybody know so that it's actually published so he can kind of continue that on. And there was I know some comments, some people from the Moxie about possibly if Main Street is messed up a little bit this year to actually expand some of Moxie onto that site too, if it's actually available, able to use. I think there is a strong want for the Moxie this year to actually just kind of get us back to, I'm not sure what normal means anymore, but actually get something going on. So I would like to just kind of get an idea from the council if we can give them the support to actually. I know there's been some talk about the idea of possibly using some of the area for some staging of the Main Street project. I think that it could be a combination, or to me, it primarily should be used for the functions of the town, and we can kind of figure out the details after. But I don't think we need to make a motion or anything about it. But is this something the council feels that we should tell them to go ahead and continue on with the summer activities, or?
Well, I don't think that anything that's in this stage of development for Warumbo is going to get in the way of that this year.
No.
And Diane, I think you talked about staging of equipment but
Yeah.
it would be on the far side somewhere, I think.
Right. I don't know until we talk to the contractor to see what their needs are. The last thing you want to do is have a staging area so far away from the construction site
Right,
that
true.
it just delays everything, because it's going to be so disruptive down there to the taxpayers that I think that site right there is a good place for staging. I don't think you need to use the whole thing, but I think you need to keep an open mind on that and allow that to happen, because I don't know where any other staging's going to be in that downtown area. That's because you don't want to be tying up traffic on Route 196 if you end up having a lot of material and piping, because it's a big project. It's not just a road project. You've got your sewer and your water going in all at the same time, so it's really 3 projects into one, so your staging area is going to be larger than normal. But I'll try to find out, well, Ryan can probably try to find out from the contractor
Yeah, we can have some
what they're going to
communication.
need, but
Yep, I think it'd be good to actually keep everything open. Just, I know Mark needed to know before the end of the month, and I told him tonight I'd actually get a feeling from the council of, so I think if everybody's all set, that we'll just have them go ahead. And it is a fairly large site, so I think we can actually try to accommodate what we need to accommodate on it, and, you know, make sure that we keep the Lisbon community going, but on the other hand, we can actually try to fulfill any needs that we can to actually help the contractor. Good, that was just something I wanted to kind of get an idea about tonight.
Nice,
Thank
good
you.
idea.
Yep.
About that parking lot, that's by
Yeah.
the park and ride. I never see any vehicles in there, and I know it's town-owned,
you
right?
will, though, once the construction happens, when nobody can park on Main Street. That's
Okay,
where
so
you,
think
that's
where
the whole
overflow will
reason.
Will
Yeah.
go there?
Have to
Yeah,
give some
that's
budget.
the other issue is your parking too. That's why we built both those new parking lots,
Yeah, the one out, yeah.
because, you know, you've got to have a place for people to park, not only the customers, but the owners.
Employees, yep.
Yeah, employees.
Perfect.
Oh, I wish Jason was here because
Yeah, he's got plenty
he
of
just,
property.
he just bought, he owns
You could rent
the
it
old
out.
gypsum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's got Labby going out there pretty soon.
To work, to
Start
do some
stuff.
demo stuff.
All right, anything else on council communications? Next item, please.
Audience participation and response for new items. At this time, those in the audience who wish to speak may approach the lectern to address items or issues not on the agenda.
Hi, Tracy Austin, School Committee. I'm going to put that hat on. Just want to invite all of you. I believe it's our next meeting, but I will send a link. We go line item by line item. This is a good way for anyone who's new to kind of understand how we go through our processes. It'll be the first night that we hear it as well. But if you want to, log in from the eye in the sky, or you're more than welcome to come sit during that meeting too. But it's usually presented before our business meeting. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that, because it's boring and there's usually a lot of increases. But that's how we do ours, is go line by line by line from each department, each school, each director. So
Is that next, when's that?
it's usually the beginning of February, so I'm thinking it's our first business meeting in February. It would be the hour before, typically.
Is that going to be streamed on the town's
Yep.
town site?
Tracy, may I ask a question?
Sure.
So as a school committee, do you actually set goals as a committee where you want to be with the budget prior to going through the process, or do you do that somewhat?
We set our goals as to what we want to accomplish for the year, and we do that in August at a retreat. It's televised. It's here. It's not much of a retreat.
You don't go to some...
No, we don't.
place?
That'd be nice. If you're more than willing, I will definitely book that next year. But we set our goals as to what educational goals we want to set forth, and then work from there. Okay, what will it take to get here? What will it take to get here? And what can we afford, and that type of thing. And then the superintendent talks to his A-team, which is the administrators. They do a school, what are your needs for the school? The administrators get that information. Then they meet with the superintendent, and they prioritize, and then they present that to us.
So what you're going to be putting out in the next meeting is not just a start, it's actually a
It's
process.
not. It's a start. It's a start for us to hear firsthand what our school, our administrators, our directors are all needing. And I think throughout the years, it's always nice to have the wants, but those get really fished out through that whole process.
Stay tuned, right?
Yeah. So.
Thank you. Anybody else for new business? Seeing none, I'm going to move to the next item.
Executive session none. Order 2022-22 to adjourn.
I make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
6-0.
Just shy of 1 hour, right?
Passed.
It won't happen every night, but we'll take it when we do it, right?
Some of that food, right?
Good. Yeah.
Yes.